Hey, everybody. I hope you're doing well. Thank you so much for joining us here today. I'm just going to change my default. Perfect. All right. Well, thank you for joining us on today's class here. We're going to be talking about your end of year checklist and how to really set yourself up and your family for a great 2022. Doing reflections, this is one of my favorite things to do every single year. It's the holidays, you might have some time off. So if you can find an hour or two for yourself, um, grab a journal, grab a pen and paper, and just have a conversation with yourself. They say some of the best conversations are the ones that you have with yourself. And this is a great opportunity to do that. Just check in. Hey, how are things going? Are you where you want to be? What was good about this year? What was not good about this year? And what we're going to do, we're going to provide you this checklist. It's going to be available in the chat box. And this will help you start that conversation and get you asking the right questions. So that's why it's really critical to do that. So before we get started, just let us know in the comment section where you're listening in from, how you're doing, and then we are going to get started and jump right in. Awesome. Sounds like everyone is doing well. Great to hear. Amazing. So for those of you that are just joining us, welcome to the 2021 year-end financial checklist. Now, as I mentioned before, self-reflection is one of the most important skills to just making progress in your life, not just with your finances, but your overall life. There's so many things that as us human beings we go through, and especially with COVID and everything that's happening, it's critical that we take a step back and we kind of analyze how we did, how we were feeling, what was our mood, what do we want to improve on. And it's these conversations that we have with ourselves that are so important, because if you don't take time to reflect, then how are you supposed to find the areas in your life that you're not satisfied with or you want to do better with, right? Like, you need to really, really figure those things out. So that's why we created this end of year checklist, and all of you are going to have access to this. So please, please, please make sure to download this, and we're going to go through it one at a time. So let's get started here. Number one is reconsider your financial mindset. You could see number one here. So I just want to make sure everyone can see me okay. Okay, perfect. So one of the most important things to do is take a look at some of the limiting beliefs that you've been experiencing over the past year. What's kind of held you back from making progress and taking that next step? What are the common thoughts and misconceptions that you had? And I remember one year I did this. It was several years ago. And for me, one of my biggest misconceptions was I can never buy a home. I have a corporation, I'm self-employed, my personal income is very low. So throughout the year, I just kept telling myself, I can't own a home, I can't own a home, I can't. And frankly, that year, I didn't purchase a home or an investment property. And when I started to do this checklist, I started to realize that was a limiting belief. And, what I did going into next year is, instead of saying I can't own a home, I started asking myself, how can I own a home? And then what I started to do is I started researching different ways to buy a home without needing, mortgage approval right away. So, just by asking myself, how can I, it forced myself to look at different opportunities. When you say I can't, that shuts your mind down. You just stop being creative, you stop looking for new opportunities. But when you ask yourself how, it forces you to go out there, get out your comfort zone, do things that are unconventional. So the learning lesson for me, what I was able to do was I was able to look at alternative ways to buy a home, and I eventually, that next year, I bought 2 investment properties, right? And trust me, I wasn't qualified to buy them. I was able to construction, because with pre-construction condos, you don't have to qualify for the mortgage right away. You only have to get a pre-approval, which is a lot easier to get than a mortgage at that time. And that's what I did. But I would never have found that opportunity of a pre-construction condo if I just kept saying, I can't. And I wasn't open to looking at different ways. So important reconsider your financial mindset. What are some of the things that hold you back? Maybe it's fear of the stock market. Maybe it's spending. Maybe you just have this belief and you just are telling yourself, I can never be wealthy. I just can't. My parents weren't. I have too many kids. I don't make enough money. So the first step to overcoming is identifying what those limiting beliefs are. So grab a bottle of wine, grab a pen and paper, and just start having that conversation with yourself. This is probably the most important step, right? It's your mindset. You fix your mindset and then you will start to create wealth way faster than you could have thought possible. It all starts up here before you start to see the results in your bank account. And it's so true. I know it sounds cheesy, motivational, corny, but it isn't. It's really all about mindset. So getting the right mindset should be one of your top goals in 2022, because that's the first step to being financially free. Okay, step number 2, analyze your expenses. This is so important. You need to have a holistic, objective look at your expenses. This is so difficult to do. And this is why sometimes I recommend that you get a coach to do this for you, because when you analyze your own expenses, and I've made this mistake before, you start to justify these expenses. Like, oh yeah, like I understand why I have to spend that much money on restaurants because I'm busy or whatever nonsense and beliefs that we have. So when you do these expenses, you need to be objective, right? Like you almost want to do it in a way that you're analyzing someone else's expenses. Like imagine you're a coach, right? So you just come in and you're like, okay, I'm going to coach myself and this is going to be a different person. So you're like, I know it's kind of confusing, but it's almost like your expenses are a different person and you're analyzing it, because you got to take the emotion out of your expenses. You got to look at it objectively, logically, and just come up with some just honest feedback for you and your family. Where are you spending too much money? I know for me, I spend way too much money on groceries, right? So that's something that I've had to look at and be like, okay, groceries and eating out, like ordering too much, restaurants a little bit too much, and I need to cut back on those areas. But you just have to be honest with yourself. This is the hardest thing to do. Ray Dalio is one of my favorite investors and business professionals. If you haven't read his book, he's got a great book called Principles that teaches you about life, business, and investing principles. And one of his top tips is embrace reality. And he says it's so hard to make progress in your life if you're not totally honest with what is going on today. You need to see things how they are, not how you want them to be, but how they are. And that's the first step to making progress. It doesn't mean you don't have a vision for yourself, but you need to embrace reality. And that's so important to do when analyzing your expenses. Put them in different categories: eating out, groceries, entertainment, right? Interest, credit cards, and look at where you're at. Number 3, not number 6, number 3, explore opportunities to increase your income. You know, in Rich Academy, if you've been a student of ours for a long time, you probably heard this over and over again, that to be financially free, it's not about increasing your income. It's about learning how to manage the money that you have. And the smarter you get at money management, the more money you make without working more hours. It's like the coolest thing in the world. It's like, wow, I could spend less time working and earn more money because I'm learning how to manage my money. I'm learning these skills that are making more money, whether it's increasing the rate of return, lowering your taxes, lowering your spending, increasing your passive income. These are all things that are going to help you grow your net worth. But you should also explore ways to increase your income. What are some things that you could do on the side? Can you do some freelance work? Can you maybe get a part-time job? Can you do Uber Eats or Uber delivery? Can you start a side business, right? Can you do consulting? Can you do speaking? For me, I'll tell you what I'm looking at doing next year. I'm looking at to do more options trading, right? Because options is a form of stock market trading where you can earn some passive income. Now, it's not crazy passive income like tens of thousands of dollars, but my goal is to start small. You know, can I earn an extra $500 a month in passive income doing options trading? Grow it to 1,000, 1,500, 2,000 without it taking up too much of my time. So you want to grab a pen and paper and figure out ways to increase your income. Perfect. Okay. Next, create an emergency fund, right? If you don't have an emergency fund, I think the pandemic has really nudged a lot of people on the importance of an emergency fund. Because an emergency fund is there to help you, it's there to rescue you during tough times. It looks like we are headed for more lockdowns, right? So if you're someone that is a little bit nervous about your employment, now is the time to lower your spending as much as possible and increase your savings. Now, I have a friend that works in the hospitality industry, right? She's a waitress. And their hours have been cut back significantly, right? She's used to working a lot of hours and it being full capacity. Now it's 50% capacity and they're closing a lot earlier. So what's she doing? She's taking a look at her expenses and she's like, okay, I need to cut back because I'm not going to be able to earn the same type of income that I was. So I can't be spending the way that I've been, right? I need to adjust my spending and I need to create this emergency fund that if I'm not working, I'm not going to be in a really bad position where I have to go into debt. I have to get a line of credit, because during times of crisis is when the debt levels increase, right? It's when people are forced to borrow money on a credit card, a line of credit, things like that. And it's really easy to get into debt and it's really hard to get out of it. So now is the time to beef up your emergency fund. 3-month minimum. I would aim for 6 months to even maybe a year of living expenses, and put that money into a high interest savings account where you're earning 3%, at least 2 to 3%. So you're at least fighting inflation. Number 5, reduce debt interest. This is important. Now, not all debt is bad. If, one of the things that I did in 2020, 2019, especially 2020, is leverage debt, right? When the pandemic happened, I actually borrowed a lot of money on a line of credit, which was about 5 to 6% interest. And I used that money to buy a lot of investments that were on sale. We talked a lot about this on our YouTube channel. There's a video where in the middle of the pandemic, we were telling people, hey, this is a great opportunity to buy investments. And 2020 was my best financial year. I had a 75% return just about. And a lot of that came because I was able to borrow money at 6% to earn a 75% return. Now, going into the future, that opportunity probably won't happen again, but I'm very confident in my investment ability that I could earn a 15 to 20% return. So I'm okay borrowing money at 6% to get those returns. If you take a look at the stock market this year, the S&P 500 is up 20+%. Real estate is up. Everything is up. So it's okay to borrow money to invest. Now, if you have high interest debt, I would say anything above 10%, I would really look at paying that down, especially if you're someone that might be a little bit closer to retirement or someone that just isn't comfortable with debt. You need to really, really focus on getting out of debt. And this goes back to step number 1 with your financial mindset. I can't get out of debt. It's too much. I've tried, I've spoken to this person. You need to ask yourself, how to get out of debt? What are some different ways I can leverage debt? And man, like when you start asking yourself how, there's so many opportunities. I was looking at ways to borrow even more money. And what I found out that there's ways to borrow money against your investments, not just against your home, but against your investments. And you're paying like 5-6% interest. And that's amazing to me. So keep asking yourself how. Some ideas: get a balanced transfer card. These are great tools. They're great short-term solutions if you have a long-term plan, where you could transfer your debt from, let's say, TD credit card to CIBC. And CIBC wants to hold on to your debt, and they'll give you a promotion of don't pay interest for a year or 10 months. So you can literally, if you have $10,000 in credit card debt, instead of paying $2,000 a year in interest, you transfer it to 0% interest. You're paying $0 in interest for a year. But why do these companies do that? Is because they know for most Canadians, they're not going to pay off that debt in a year and that debt's going to balloon. So great short-term solution if you have a long-term plan. Get a home equity line of credit, debt consolidation, so many things that you could do, but you got to get that debt interest down. And then that goes to number 6, Commit to a debt repayment plan and focus on high interest loans. They say if you fail to plan, you're planning to fail. And if you don't have a written financial plan, it's going to be very difficult for you to be financially free. It's almost impossible. If you're in debt, do you have a plan on how to get out of debt? Like, do you know the date that you're going to get out of debt? Have you committed a certain amount to pay off your debt? Do you know which debt you're going to pay off first? Are you going to consolidate your debt? What's your plan? If you don't have a plan, then you shouldn't be complaining that you're in debt. Of course you're in debt if you don't have a plan. That's like me complaining that I don't have a nice, fit, healthy body because I don't have a plan to go to the gym. This is honestly my plan, right? To give you an example, I want to have a nice, fit, healthy body, but I just work out whenever I feel like it. I wake up like, oh, do I feel like working out? Sure, I'll go for like 15 minutes. And the gym at my condo, I just go lift a few weights. I'm like, yes, this is great. I don't have a written plan. And no wonder I've gone months without seeing much progress. You need to have a plan with everything in your life, including your debt. So make that plan. Please don't make fun of me for that example. So there we go. All right, let's keep going here. Let me just see if there's any questions. Awesome, Emmy. Sorry about this view here. I don't have my second monitor. Okay, Evan, this is something I haven't decided to do, is analyze your returns and fees on your investments. It's critical to do this because if you're not reflecting on how things are going, it's impossible to make improvements. So you need to just analyze everything, right? What is your return? How many of you know what your total rate of return is on your investments this year? Put yes or no in the comments section. Do you know the rate of return that you've averaged this year? Put yes or no in the comments section. Let's see. And like to the percentile, like 23%, 24%. Nope. So a lot of no's, right? Most of you are, it's a no. I usually do this once a quarter because I'm very hands-on. You don't need to do it every 3 months or 4 months. If you do it every 6 months or even once a year, that's totally fine. But you need to figure out how much you're making, not just how much you're earning. You need to analyze the benchmark, okay? Because you can get a 15% return this year, and you could be really happy, like, yay, 15%. But you need to compare it to the benchmark. Because if you got a 15% return, but the market went up 25%, you've actually underperformed. So what's the benchmark? To me, there's two major benchmarks in Canada. I like to look at the S&P 500. So let's take a look at the S&P 500 year-to-date returns. So let's look at these benchmarks here, okay? You could do, I really like Morningstar. That's the one I use, but any of these are fine. Let's just use Yahoo Finance. Okay, so performance year to date, we're at a 26.67% return. Okay, now all of your money, especially if your risk profile is conservative, is not going to be in the S&P 500, right? But this gives you an idea of how it performed, 27%. So to me, this kind of indicates a benchmark. It's not the benchmark, but it gives you an idea. Now let's take a look at the TSX return year to date. So the TSX is the Toronto Stock Exchange, which represents Canada, okay? So this is around 18% return, right? So to me, I look at 18% for Canada. I look at 26% for the US. I look at the middle of that. You're looking at around 22%. That's my benchmark, right? Now I'm just telling you what my benchmark is because I'm ultra aggressive, right? I have zero money in bonds because I'm not near retirement and I could risk a lot more money. Now, if you're someone that's getting closer to retirement, you might want to look at the return on bonds as well. So if we could take a look at USA bonds, it's going to be low. Bond benchmarks. Okay, like you can see year-to-date return, like most of them are negative, some of are positive. So bonds have really haven't been too effective this year. But again, that's just how bonds are. Bonds are like cash. It's like very safe, secure. You can't rely on getting a great rate of return on bonds. They're there to provide stability, right? They're there to provide stability for your portfolio. Where when the S&P 500, it's been a kind of a crazy year, a lot of ups, a lot of downs. Let me show you the performance here. Um, like if you take a look at this year to date, it's been a nice up and down. But during these downs, you want to have your money in some secure investments, whether it's cash, whether it's bonds, or just some sort of more secure investment. So what's your total return? How does it compare to the benchmark? And how much are you paying in fees? So important. So important. And someone asked a great question. How do you calculate the rate of return that you've earned? So you should be able to see it on, if you're doing self-direct investment, whether you're using Wealthsimple or whether you're using Questrade, there is a way for you to see your total return under the performance or under reports. So it might take a little bit of digging. It's simple Google search will help you, like how to find total return in Questrade. I actually just searched this up because I think they changed it recently. So there's some great forums and things like that can help you. There is a report, like I know on Questrade, you can, in like 2 clicks, it takes like 30 seconds. You could pull a report that will show you the performance of your different accounts in the different assets. If you're with a financial advisor, you should get your year to end of date financial statements. They're usually available online and it will tell you your total return. So very important that you do that. Okay, number 8, reconfirm your investment risk and your asset allocation. Okay, this is so important to do because this was a year of cryptocurrency, and I'm not sure how many of you have watched that webinar that we did last year or have started to invest a little bit more in cryptocurrency. This is something that I did myself this year, and what happened was I started off with a very small amount, right? Maybe about 10% of my overall investments. But because cryptocurrencies have done so well this year, that 10% has grown and it's now about 20% of my entire investment portfolio. So I need to go back and I need to have a conversation with myself and say, am I comfortable having 20% of my assets invested in cryptocurrency, which is historically a very volatile type of investment? So I've come to the conclusion that I'm okay with it. I don't want to sell, but that provides a lot of risk because recently it went down. So let's take a look at Bitcoin as an example. Because Bitcoin has actually gone down this year. And because I have more of my money invested in it, more of my money was at risk, right? So right now it's at $48,000 US. If we take a look at how it's done year to date, we could take a look that it had a great start to the year, but it got crushed here, made a small recovery, and then you're kind of like, there. So the total return year to date is 70% return. It's pretty amazing. Over the last year, it's been 100%, so you would have doubled your money. Now, again, this is a very volatile type of investment. If you haven't watched that workshop that we did on cryptocurrency, you need to review that because we talk about the best case principles and how to really approach it. So you got to review your asset allocation. You got to be like, okay, where is my money? Am I okay with my money there? Am I okay with certain type of investments being in certain type of assets? So important. Number 9, maintain your will. Critical. If you don't have a will right now, then the first thing you need to do after today's class is get yourself a will. Protect your family. Protect your estate. Protect your legacy more than anything. When someone passes away, it's one of the most challenging times in your life, right? It's going to be, for your kids, one of the worst days of their lives, a day that they'll never forget. And there's so much that goes on outside of finances when someone passes away. The emotions, the grief, the memories, it's overwhelming. Now, if you don't have a clear plan on who gets what money, who's in charge of your estate, what's going on, you are just adding so much more headache for your family. You're doing a major disservice. You know, a time of passing should be a time of celebration. It should not be a time of hardship for you and your family. Make it easy for them. Make it simple. And it's never going to be easy, but don't let them worry about finances, because there's so much more that's going to go on in your life. And for some people think that they don't need to worry about a will. Like, I'll just live forever. I'm not going to pass away. My immune system's great. I work out. And it's like, you never know. I have a will, right? I'm a very young individual, but of course I have a will, because you need to plan for these things. And I don't want, if something happens to me, I don't want finances to be something that, my partner gets into a fight with my family or the bank or what. I don't want to create that conflict within my family. So of course I'm going to have a will. Number 10, revisit your retirement plan. Are you on track? Are you making progress towards your retirement? And what adjustments do you need to make? Maybe this was a year that you lost your job, or this was a year that you took a step back, and you might need to adjust some things. Maybe this year, because we had a great return in the stock market, right? If you got a 20% return, that means that you can maybe retire a year or two sooner than you anticipated. That's what it means, because the average return is 8%. We had like a 20% return. So that means at least you can retire a year, maybe a year and a half sooner than you anticipated. But who knows what's going to happen next year? But you need to adjust your plan and make that progress. So I hope you enjoyed this quick reflection on where you're at and where you want to go. And I just have a quick question for all of you. How many of you are happy with the progress that you made this year on your journey to financial freedom? Put in yes or no. Are you happy with the progress that you've made this year on your journey to financial freedom? Okay, we got a lot of no's, a lot of yeses. Thanks so much, Tammy, Lynn, Andrea, Susie, Jean, sincerely, Monica. It's just I love asking that question, because it's a good opportunity to look yourself in the mirror and be like, okay, am I happy about it? As I would highly recommend, if you're not journaling already, get a journal. Get a journal. The average person has 60,000 thoughts that roam through their head each day. Each day. When you grab a journal, you're turning those 60,000 thoughts into streamlined thoughts so that your mind doesn't wander away of all these different things. Have a conversation with yourself. Just like, where are you? Are you happy with where you're at? What are you not happy with? What adjustments do you want to see? And start working towards creating that plan. I promise you something. You won't be able to create that plan in your head. Your mind doesn't work in a straight line, because you start working on one thing, then all of a sudden your mind goes here, and then there, and then all of a sudden you're like, how did I get to this thought? Why? How did I end up here? What a journal does, it provides structure in your thinking. It makes sure that you answer the questions that you needed to answer, and question some of the most powerful things that you could do. Asking yourself the right questions and then journaling on them, and then go from there. So this is a good checklist that could get you started. But if you don't have a journal, go to the dollar store, grab one, and just it'll change your life. It's changed my life. I've been doing it for years. And the other thing that I want to talk about is information is great. Like, we love doing these classes once a week, and we're going to continue to do them in 2022. But at one point in your life, that conversation with yourself, you're like, okay, I've been attending these webinars for a while. I got the program, I've read some books, and I'm still not where I wanted. That you need to have. And it usually takes about a year to 2 years to make that realization that education alone isn't enough, that they need to do more. There needs to be action on this education. I'll never forget this individual we met. Her name was Shania. And when we were doing events years ago, she attended every single event for like 3 years in a row. And I remember one time I went to Shania, why do you keep attending these events? I'm curious. And she's like, I love to learn. I love to get. And as we started to talk, I started to realize that she wasn't making her finances. She wasn't making the steps that she should have been making. And one of the biggest reasons for Shania is she was scared. She loved learning, but when it came time to take action, she got scared. She got nervous. She tried to do a few things. Like she opened up a Questrade account, but she was scared to invest, and something was holding her back. And we had this conversation, Shania, like, what are the next 5 years going to look like for you and your family if you just continue to go down the same path of reading books, educating, coming to our events, but you do nothing with it? And she told, like, my life is not going to change if I keep going down this path. I'm not going to make any progress. Like, I'm going to be in the same situation. I told her, are you happy with that? And she wasn't. She wanted to be wealthier. She wanted to create more passive income and feel better about her money. She wanted to have more control, but she wasn't doing anything to really get there besides the education. So what did Shania do? She actually ended up getting a financial coach. And what that coach did for her, more than anything, it wasn't necessarily the coach taught her anything new. The coach was there to help her take action on the things that she already knew. She opened a Questrade account but didn't invest. The coach actually helped her figure out her asset allocation and make the right investments. She wanted to buy an investment property, but she was nervous. The coach actually helped create a plan, analyze different properties, and helped her buy a property. Retirement planning. She had a rough plan, but the coach really helped her create a more detailed plan. And that's really how powerful coaching is, because a coach helps you do the things that you should, and it helps you look at what you're doing and point out the areas that you can be doing better. So if you're someone that's just kind of like, you've answered no, grab a journal and just ask yourself, what a coach helped me? Why am I not happy where I'm at right now? That's a tough question to ask yourself, man. It is, because it's going to take some soul searching. You're going to have to go and look at some of your habits, some of your behavior, some of your beliefs, and be honest with yourself. And for a lot of you, I'm telling you right now, 2022 can be your best financial year. If you find out those roadblocks that are holding you back from making progress. Some of you, the roadblock, you're not putting enough time into it. Some of you, the roadblock is fear. Some of you, it's excuses. Some of you, it's lack of accountability. Until you find that roadblock, it's going to be very difficult to make 2022 your best financial year. So be honest with yourself, grab a pen and paper and be like, what are my roadblocks? And if you can right now, I would encourage you to put the answer in the comments section. Like, just ask yourself, what are some of the roadblocks, right? And you don't have to answer them, but try to come up with some ideas as a. So that being said, guys, this time of year, it's a fun time of year, the holiday. And I hope all of you have a really happy holidays, and I'm wishing you all the best, especially with what's going on with COVID. It's crazy to break, but 2022 can be your best financial year. And for many of you, it will be your best financial year. Just like many of our students, 2021 was their best year. But in order for the best financial year, you're going to have to do things differently. You can't keep going down the same path, expecting all of a sudden miracles to happen. If you want different results, you're going to have to do things a little differently. So one thing that can help you out is a coach. I'm not saying that it's going to help you, but for so many Canadians, it's the average Canadian that's been a part of our coaching program has increased their net worth by about $48,000. Our average student is saving about $1,300 a month. So what we made available is a free coaching consultation. It's like a free to ask you questions and get a really good understanding of where you're at financially and what needs to happen for you to take that next step and make 2022 your best financial year. So if you're interested in just a free call, it's a very relaxed call, and just have an open conversation. There's a link in the chat box. You could click that to your call. I would really encourage you to do this. A lot of our team members are taking some time off for the holidays. So you want to make sure you grab a spot before they kind of take off and do this and just have a conversation. The best case scenario, you have an empowered conversation that will help you go into 2022 with a lot of momentum and excitement. The worst case scenario, you don't get anything from the call and it took up 30 minutes of your time, but it's worth that shot. It's a tool that we offer. And if coaching is a good fit for you, our individuals will tell you a little bit more about it, answer all the questions that you might have, and point you in the right direction. So definitely click that link, book a call, and join. We've helped thousands of Canadians go from I want to be financially free to actually being financially free and creating that plan for them. So we want to help you do the same. So click the link below, schedule that call. And now if you do have any questions, we could do a quick Q&A for 10 minutes or so. If there are, if not, that's totally fine. But I hope you enjoyed this class. If you did, please do give this video a big thumbs up. Let me know in the comment section if you enjoyed it. It helps us to know, what are the topics people are enjoying, what are they not enjoying, and it helps us make adjustments on what we could do better. Awesome. Okay, Monica says, yeah, this helped me more with my finances than a single thing I did. That's amazing to hear. Monica, thanks so much for that. So there's the thing. Yeah, Lynn. So Lynn says, Coach, yeah, Lynn, you absolutely can. You can reach out to them. We do recommend that you fill in that intake survey first, give you an overview of what you need to do and give the coach a really good idea of your financial situation so that they can start creating a plan for you, because it's very hard to start creating solutions and a plan when we don't understand your situation. And that's why, as a first part about the coaching program, there's a very in-depth questionnaire that we're going to ask everything. We're going to have a better understanding of your finances than you do of yourself. And the reason we do that is because once we have that information, then we create a plan for you. The great thing about our coaching is we have a complete money-back guarantee. So if you go through the program and you feel like it's not helping you, we give a full refund. Yeah, Gene, Paul, whatever software you're using, they should be able to calculate your rate of return even though you made contributions throughout the year. If it doesn't, some great tutorials online that will show you how to. Awesome. Funny, like, do you think the stock market will crash or have major correction 2022? I don't know, Dilip. I don't know. And I'm not here to make projections, but I'm here to be market takes a hit, because that was my best year and I'm prepared for it. But even if it doesn't, you don't want to sit on the sidelines. That's the key. You want to be able to set yourself up so you take advantage of the great gains, but you're also prepared if the markets crash to pounce on that opportunity. And that all comes from planning. It's a little bit more advanced, but that's what you want to do. The simple thing to do is just dollar cost average. Just invest a certain amount every single month, and you're going to do really well, even if the markets crash. I would recommend that you do that. We will have a class in 2022 on stock market outlook and the ideas of what we think will happen. So make sure. And we also have another class on January 6th about goal setting and things along those lines. Great, Wilson. I'm glad you enjoyed it. And if I don't speak to you, happy holidays. I hope you enjoy the holidays and spend some time with your family and friends and have a chance to reflect and relax. Thanks, everyone. Have an amazing rest of your day, and we'll speak to you soon.